so you can share that as well. I will email that recording out to you later today. It might be sometime this evening, but you will get a copy of that. Finally, we're all in this together. I really believe in collective efficacy, that we are all, as Virginia educators, coming together to serve our students, and what that looks like in the Commonwealth. All right, so we're ready to transition, and I know that the presentation, our time together, this session is about docs and slides, but I find it is very important to first talk about what Google Drive is. So we're going to first talk about the cloud. And the cloud is something that we've heard this term for years and years, but I would love if someone could answer, what is the cloud? So if you could come in here, and if you want to unmute, maybe turn your video on and answer that question, what is the cloud? Any takers?
What is it?
The place where everything goes.
Okay, so a place where everything goes. How does it get there?
It's saved to it automatically, maybe?
Okay, awesome. It's magic, and that's the answer I was looking for. A few people are saying it's magical, it's stored in space, okay? So we use the cloud for everything. Our banking is in the cloud. All of our documents are in the cloud. When we watch videos and we're watching things on YouTube, all of that, or on Netflix, all of that is coming from these servers, and it's in the cloud, right? And two ways that we interact with the cloud: we can upload things and we can download things. Would any takers out there like to answer, what does it mean to upload? What does it mean to download? And I would really encourage you, if you are answering this, go ahead and turn your camera on so that we can see you as you share.
Who's saying anything?
When you upload, you take something that has been saved and you actually bring it to your screen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So you can use it and interact.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and admit that most of the time when I ask this question, I do so a little bit for my own enjoyment. I love the hand motions that people give when they explain download and upload. So that's it. Okay. So to me, I explain it by saying upload. I'm taking it from my computer and putting it into the cloud. So it's moving from my phone or from my laptop, and it's here to here. Now download's the opposite. It's in the cloud, it's somewhere else, and I need to get it from there to my computer. So I'm downloading to my computer. I mentioned in my last session that my family is visiting family right now, and it was a long drive, right? And you better believe that we downloaded some movies on Disney Plus for our kiddos for the car ride. And we took it from their servers and put it onto our computer. And that I feel like is really important to talk through before we get into looking at what it means to use a cloud for things like docs and slides. So at this point, I'm going to head back to our slides, and we're going to go to Google Drive. I'm going to do a quick demo of how we use this tool before we get into how we use docs and slides. So to get to Drive, we can either do drive.google.com, or if you're in a Google product right now, you can click, so if I'm at Google's homepage, we'll see these, my waffle menu in the top right-hand corner, and that brings up my app launcher, and I can pick whichever of these tools I want, and I'm going to do Drive. All right, so I'm in Drive, and just as I do with most of my tools, I feel like it's important to start in the top left and kind of work our way across. I am going to just touch on a few things as we're going, so it won't be a comprehensive Google Drive session. That wasn't our goal, but I will talk about some important things. So within Drive, the very first thing that our eye is probably drawn to is the New button here in the top left. When we click on that, this is where we can create a new folder. So if you're trying to have organization within your Google Drive, this is where we would go. We can upload, we see that word again, if we have resources on our computer. This is really helpful if you're moving from like a flash drive. You can do the folder upload in any subfolders. That structure would also come with you. Then we get into docs, sheets, and slides, and all three of these, probably the most commonly used tools within Drive, are available here. And And I can always go to more, where we're going to see things like forms, drawings, which is one of my favorite tools, Google Sites. And then in our last session, we also talked about Jamboard. So that all of those are available in here, as well as you can add things from other companies as well. But those are just a few of the Google Drive, Google tools we have in here. All right, so continuing down, My Drive are files that you've created and you are the owner of. If we skip down a little bit, or sorry, on the left-hand side, we'll see that little handle. I can toggle and it's going to show my entire drive structure organized alphabetically. So here's that entire folder structure. I can minimize that again. Shared with me, it's exactly what you think. It's what somebody, John has said, I want Adam to be able to access these slides. All of a sudden, I can access those slides. Recent, I use this option a lot. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up that right now, my recent are all those recertification certificates people in the 9 o'clock session created. So as I scroll through here, you'll see them again and again. You might even see your own name in there. Starred. These are things that you're like, these are my favorites. These are my go-tos. So maybe you star, here's the next unit that I'm going to do. And you can easily find it as you're constructing those resources. Or maybe it's, I always forget how to do my grading at the end of the year or at the end of a quarter. So now I can go in and star those resources and be able to find them again very quickly. Again, very simple ways that we can help to organize our drive. The other thing that you'll notice, if you're using a school account right now, you have unlimited storage. That means you can put as many large videos in here as you want. You can have PDFs, you can have songs, whatever you want, and you won't run out of storage. A quick note about storage. Any Google Drive folder, file won't count against your storage either. So if you're using docs or slides, you can put as much in there as you want, and it will never use up use up your data. But your PDFs, your videos, things like that would. Ooh, I got through that. All right. So some other things we want to see. At the very top, we have Search and Drive. This is a Google tool, so search is very helpful in here. I like to click the downward arrow for search options, and then we can say, I want to find just a presentation who it was owned by me. Maybe it's in a certain folder, we can do that, or date modified. I made changes on April 13th, and you can find it, and it's very easy to find exactly what it is you're looking for. The final couple things I want to talk about in here, we're going to go to the settings option. And again, clicking settings. And in here, tells me how much storage I've used. This is the option that I really want to show people. If you are still uploading a lot of your files that are on your computer, on a flash drive, wherever, and you want them to now be in Google Drive, please check this button before you do so. This will make it that PowerPoint, the Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is, will automatically be converted to a file that you can easily edit. And it saves you a lot of time by doing that. All right, so again, that was our very brief introduction to what Google Drive is. At this point, we're ready to create our first Google Doc. And the easiest way to do that from this screen is going to New and Google Docs. The cool way to do it, if you're really trying to be fancy, is if in the top of your screen, where we have our URL, we simply type in docs.new, and look at this magic. In just a second, you can be on any website, type in docs.new, and it creates a new doc for you. Little tip and trick there for you. All right, so I know in the next couple seconds, all of us will be in our brand new Google Doc. And the very first thing that I want to show you when we're in here is a mistake that I made for probably the first 5 years that I used Docs. And so now whenever I get in here, I'm going to click where it says Untitled Document in the top left and give it a title. It doesn't matter if it's a throwaway title, I just want it to have a title. So mine is Live Demo 615. And as soon as I click out of that text box, you'll notice a few things happen. It says saving. And then also the tab at the top of my screen has been renamed from Untitled Document to Live Demo 615. And all of that syncs up automatically. It makes it very easy to happen. Okay, so here we are. We are in Google Docs. Many of us have used Docs for years and years and years. So there are a couple features that I am going to highlight as we're going that I think will be helpful for everybody. So the very first thing I want you to do is type in, what is one goal that you have for the summer? Okay, and it doesn't need to be a complete sentence. It can be a fragment, but just go ahead and put it in here. So for me, I want to finish grad school and spend time with my family. And it seems like my screen's pretty laggy. Oh, I get to do all that again. Okay, so finish grad school and enjoy my time with my family. Okay, so everybody should have, a fragment in here. It does not need to be a complete sentence whatsoever, but we have that information in here. So the next thing I want to show you, and I think that this is going to blow some minds, okay? We're going to go down to the very bottom right-hand corner of Docs, and you'll see this little Explore button. So let's go ahead and click there. And take a look at what this does for us. So it is doing a search based on what I just typed in, and it's talking about graduate opportunity fellowship programs. Is it time to start a family? And it is giving me results based on what I've already typed in. Some other things that I can do, I can also do a search right here. So maybe it's hikes around Blue Ridge Parkway. I live in Waynesboro. We have the National Park and we have the Blue Ridge Parkway right by us. So I'm going to do my search. And it comes up, I have this info card in here, tells me the geology of it, the highest point, things like that. And then I get all these web results in here too. All right, so in here, I love this. I don't need to have a bunch of different tabs open to do my web searches. I can do it directly from here. When I find one that I want to pursue more, I can click on the link, find resources in here, and check out what I'm going to do next. I used to be an English teacher, and the thought of what I'm about to show you would have made me cringe 10 years ago, but now I'd be like, yeah, I'm all about this. So I love this paragraph. I'm going to copy it. And I'm finding resources about how to enjoy my family, and I'm going to just paste it in here. And now I have this in, but we know that we need to practice good citizenship and give credit to our resources. So what I'm going to do here where it says web results, I'm going to click the ice cream menu, those 3 dots, and I can choose what citation format I want to do. And when I hover over hiking Blue Ridge Parkway, you'll notice we get this little quotation or cite as footnote button, and it does that for me. So now at the bottom of my screen, I have this website properly cited that I can go back and give credit to it when I eventually turn this into a full reference page or works cited page. You'll notice that we have 3 different choices for citation format: MLA, APA, Chicago. Again, all very easy to use. But I don't only want to go and find resources this way. I also want to make this visually appealing. So I'm going to go to images, and here are some pictures of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Here's one that I like. I'm going to click the plus sign on that image, and that inserts it for me. Now, there are many ways that we can insert images into Google products like Google Docs. I like this one because when I do it and we click on that picture, it now gives me the link to where it came from. Now, this isn't properly citing it, right? So we would still want to work with our students on how to do this, but at least I know where it came from and I can get back to it. The final thing that happens when we use the Explore tool is it does a search in our Google Drive. So right now I don't have any other things about Blue Ridge Parkway, but if instead I do Romeo and Juliet, I do have things on that. So I like to use this tool when I'm doing lesson planning or unit planning, and I can go and find all of the related resources that I'm trying to connect for my unit and be able to find them very quickly, again, without ever leaving my doc. So if, yes, this is the one I want, this PDF, I can click, it opens up and just streamlines my search process. Now all of a sudden I'm done with the Explore tool. I've looked at some different features of it. I'm ready to close it. And we're back in here with my sentence starter. and then my copy and pasted selection that is also cited for me. Okay, so we're going to look at some other features of Google Docs. I'm not going to take time to show you how to type or mess with the color or things like that. I will show you how to change the font because there are a lot of cool fonts within Docs. If I click where it says Arial, we get the very first thing we see is more fonts. And in here, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of different fonts you can choose from. I like to sort by or show all, and we can do things like ones that can be displayed well on a website, ones that are handwriting. So this is helpful. I mentioned before I have a 7-year-old son, so if I wanted him to be able to see how we write things, maybe what cursive means, I could open a history book, or I can use Sacramento and turn Sacramento on, and now he can see what Miles, his name, looks like when it's written in cursive. With any of these, I can toggle through and find the exact one I want. Okay, so Miles is gone. Sorry, buddy. Continuing on, I really like to hang out where it says Tools. There are some very powerful options in here, so we're going to go ahead and click Tools. And in here, for years, people were asking for spelling and grammar to show up in Google Docs, and within the past year it did, so that's awesome that we have that here. We also have things in here like dictionaries, so I can look that information up. But the one I want to really highlight right now is voice typing. When I click voice typing, over here on the left, I get this option. I'm going to click on it. One of my favorite reasons for people to use voice typing is because it allows us to remove the barrier of thought to demonstration of that knowledge, period. We're able to make the learning as accessible and simple as we possibly can. Exclamation, new paragraph. Isn't this amazing? Question mark. Okay, so I know that this is a pretty common tool when we use our cell phones, but I wanted to emphasize that it is directly built in to Google Docs as well, so that you and your students, even those pre-literate or pre-writing students, are able to represent their ideas. Now, I mentioned my 7-year-old son, when he was 4, he wasn't typing yet, but we would do these things called I Wonders, where we would go and learn something together, and then I'd have him summarize what he learned, and he did it through voice typing. So it was literally his words coming out. He could be in control of it and have it show up on here. Now, you'll probably want to go back and edit. It even went through and said, originally this said what, but it automatically adjusted to one of, so very powerful. I know that not all of our students are English native. So what we can do, we can also adjust the language for their home language. We can click where it says English, and in here, not only do we have many languages, but we also have dialects of them. So I can say, no, I want Filipino, I want Philippine English, or I want South African, or when we go to Spanish, we have probably 20 different countries or dialects that we can select. So I'm going to do Mexico, and now when I do that input, it would provide the writing in the correct format. On the topic of translating, there is a translation tool built directly into Docs as well. So if we go up to where it says Tools, and right above voice typing is Translate Document. And when I do this, I'm going to make this my Spanish translated copy of Live Demo. And I can choose my language. And you'll notice there are many of them in here. When I find the one I want, I'm going to translate. And in about 5 seconds, that entire document is going to be translated. Now, a quick caveat, it may not be perfect, but at least starts to bridge the gap for our students to be able to, it allows us to get the content to them without needing to use any other service. Very helpful to be able to do that. And my school that I support, I had some teachers who had 5 or 6 different languages in the same class, and this was a general class. And they, when we were doing school closure, could easily go out and find the Spanish translation. They could find a Mandarin translation, whatever other languages they may be. All right, so final pieces that I want to make sure we tackle within Docs. If we go to Insert, we have things like being able to bring in a chart. So if you wanted to have data, you can do that. Tables are in here too, so I can say I want a 4x3 table. This is going to be really helpful if you're doing choice boards or hyperdocs. They use a lot of tables, and we can start to put content in this way and organize and structure. The final piece that I want to make sure we understand is if I highlight a word or a picture or a single letter, it gives me the option to add a comment, and then I can leave a note to my students, or if I'm co-constructing with someone else, or maybe I need to remind myself to go back and revise, I can just drop that comment in, and now I have that information there for me. All right, so at this point, a couple final things we need to talk about. Please know that this is always saving. This icon is a new icon, but it does say a check mark when it has synced. If you need to put something into a folder, you can click move and it will bring up your folder structure. And finally, we previously talked about stars and how that's like a favorite, and you can do that directly from here too. And finally, if we want to share, there's a big blue button here for us in slides that will be yellow. When we click share, I can either type in an individual's name. So if I want it to be specifically my friend John, I can do that. And I can choose how I want him to interact. Do I want him to simply view? Do I want him to be able to give me feedback? Or do I want him to be an editor and have the same ability to make changes as I do? I'll do that and then send. We can also instead click the gears and be able to make the changes that way, or sorry. From here, we can also get link and change what that looks like. Now this is recently revised, so if you haven't used Docs for a couple weeks, maybe it looks different than what you did before. All right, so I'm gonna head back to our slides now. And we're going to do our first challenge. So on slide 11, if you want to head back to your copy of your slides, now would be a good time. We have two different challenges, and we'll take about 5 or maybe like 3 minutes to at least get started, and you can pick which of these three or which of these options you want. On the left, we have Padawan. This is the beginner. If you are pretty new to slides still, this would be a good choice to pick. So in here is a very simple hyperdoc about distance learning and what that means. So if you click on it, it will prompt you to make a copy or to use the template. And when you're in here, you'll add your ideas into the right-hand column. The other option, these are a little bit more challenging. And so we have a simple choice board, the tic-tac-toe model, or we have the explore, explain, apply hyperdoc model that you can begin to create something in here. Now you will not get to completion during this little 3-minute time frame, but you can at least try out some of those skills that we have addressed so far. So go ahead and pick whichever one of those you want. And we'll come back together in about 3 minutes to move on. We'll take another 1.5 minutes or so. So continue to explore those few different resources, then we'll come back together. 30 more seconds. All right, so let's come back together. And I do have a quick question that I'll invite you guys to unmute, and I'd like to hear from maybe like 3 people. What challenge did you overcome as you were using Google Docs? What were some aha moments, or what obstacles were you able to overcome? You can unmute your mic and respond.
Not so much on this activity, but the one thing, I have ELL students as well as those in SPED. And so for my SPED kids who have a lot of scribe, I've been getting them to do the voice for talk, but I have no idea that you could actually have a Spanish speaking child do it and then translate it back in English. So that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it may not be perfect, but it at least gets a head start where then you can go back and refine, but it gives that initial starting point. Thank you. A couple other folks?
I
used Explore. I used Explore to import a video.
Oh yeah? And it worked well for you?
Yes.
Good, awesome.
I was
let's hear from-
successful in making a copy.
Oh, good. You made a copy. Yes, you did it. All right. Any other folks?
I just had a comment. This is Karen Elliott. I'm an ESL teacher. The only thing I was going to say with the dictation and scribe, the only thing to keep in mind with any child learning a second language is just that because they are able to do it in English, they may not be literate in their own language. I know a lot of times we often forget that because they may not have learned how to read and write in their own language.
That's a very important point to bring up and to remind us of as often as we can. Thank you. So we're going to continue on. I'm going to switch back to our slides, and we're going to transition to Google Slides. So very similarly, and let me make sure we're all muted. Cool. Okay, so very similarly to what we did before, we're going to work through how to use slides. You'll notice on slide 12 or 14, I have a link for getting started with slides. And that is going to be step-by-step process that in the future, if you want to go back and refer to, you can. They have 6 different videos in here to help you with things like creating a presentation, adding content, and sharing. And then beneath here, we have how do I insert audio or do links within it, and all of that's available here as well. All right, so I'm gonna head back to our slides. Know that there's also a short video that you can look at if you'd like, but we're going to create our first set of slides. To do that, we can be in Google Drive and hit new slides, or if you're still in a Google Doc, you can go up to File, New, and select slides that way too. So a few different routes, but I'd like all of you to head to slides at this point. All right, so it's still loading, it's coming up, and we are good to go. You'll notice on the right-hand side, and I've already closed mine out, but comes up with themes, so you can pick different aesthetic themes in there, and all of that would be there for you. Just like we did with our docs, we're gonna give it a title, live demo. And we can see that retitles it at the top of our page too. I do want to give this a title here in the middle as well. So this will be all about slides. And just like we did before, we're going to add different types of content in here. So my first slide is already made. If I needed to create a second slide, I'm going to go up to on the left, top left, there's a plus sign, and I can do a new slide, or I can click the arrow directly to the right of it and select from these different layouts. I really like the section title and description option and how this looks. So right now, that's the option that I've selected here, and I can begin to add my content in. Now, once I have this slide selected, I have a toolbar up here that allows me to add text boxes, and we already have some in here from the layout. I can insert images, shapes, and a bunch of other things. But we're going to start off with adding an image. So let's go ahead and click where it says Insert Image. We have 4 different ways we can do this. For right now, I want to do Search the Web. And this brings up Google search directly, Google image search directly in my resource. So here I want, I'm going to research solar panels on roof. Okay, and I get my picture, and whichever one I want, I can add that in here. At the bottom of my screen, it says Insert, and now all of a sudden I have my picture in here. Once I have my picture, you'll notice that I have this blue box around it with handles around the edges. If I go to the top corner or any of the corners, I can move it, but one issue that I run into is that it may lose its proportion. So I'm going to hold down Shift and then adjust things, and it's always going to stay in the same proportions. And it won't distort my image at all. This is particularly important if you're trying to resize pictures of people, and we don't want that funhouse mirror effect where all of a sudden we look like we've gained double our weight or made ourselves look really skinny. So all right, now I have my picture in here. Some other things that I can do with my image. You'll notice I have these other options, and one of them is crop image, but just to the right of that is an option to mask image. When I click here, it comes up with different shapes, and I can choose to make this a circle instead, or make it an oval, right? And all of that is very easy to do. So again, my image was selected. I'm coming next to where it says crop image, and I'm doing mask image, and I can pick any of these any of these shapes that I want. Continuing on with what I can do with images, I have the option to format. And with this, I can change the coloring. So if I want it to be like the sepia tone, I can do that, sepia tone, and make it look old-fashioned, right? And if I ever need it to get back to normal, all I have to do is click this picture of an image with the arrow going to the left, and it resets my image to the original. Continuing over, we have shapes, and I can add whatever shape I want. And a really cool thing about shapes is any of these shapes that I put in here are also text boxes. So to add text to it, all I have to do is double click, and I can start typing. So this is my rounded rectangle. And I have it in here. The next thing I'd want to do with this is when I have my rounded rectangle selected, I have my paint bucket where I can change the color. I can change the gradient or make it invisible if I wanted to. I can change the border. So I'm gonna make my border red. And then the next option is I'm just continuing to move to the right is how thick is the border. I want it to be a 4, so it's a little thicker. I can see it better. Maybe I'll make it even an 8. And I can keep going to border dash. So I know that this is the international sign for, hey, you should be cutting this out, right? So if we do this, maybe we signify that whenever a student has this check around the outside, the dashes around the outside, that means they have a question, or maybe they're responding to a question that you put into the template. So we can use these very purposefully to signify different student actions. So maybe every time there are dots around it, I want them to just pause and reflect on something. Anytime that I have this symbol, maybe they need to pair up with 2 other classmates and have a conversation around it, and we can really try to ingrain those ideas with our students. We can use arrows to connect ideas if we want, but really that's some pretty easy things that we can do. Now the next part that I really want to get into is going up to where it says Insert. And in here, we have some pretty powerful pieces in here. We can add things like audio. When we do this, it's going to go through my Google Drive and find any audio samples. I can also search. So maybe I want to do a read aloud, and I can do that. And it brings in this little icon. And I can choose, is it doing it as soon as they click on it, or will it do it automatically? I can loop the audio. So maybe I just helped the high school I work at do a senior awards night, and we looped certain classical music in the background so that they would continue to hear it. We can change the color, lots of different things that we can do with our options for our audio. And it's just this little button, and when they click on it, they can hit play.
I hope that this works.
Okay. Also from Insert, we can add video, and this pulls from 2 different places. We can either do it from YouTube or from Google Drive. So a couple different ways that we can bring these resources in. And I'll bring one in from YouTube. So this will be Black Labs. Okay, we'll go with this one. Again, we would want to make sure that we watch the whole video and that we find one that is the proper or an appropriate length for our students. And now I've got my video in here. Now here's something that I think is pretty helpful when we add videos. You'll notice that on the right-hand side, I can say when I want it to start. So this is a 2-minute and 53-second video. I want it to start at 47 seconds and end at 1:30. And so now when they watch the video, 1:30. That's the only part that will play for our students. We can make it where it's auto playing when we present. We can have no audio in there and they can just view it. And all of those are easy settings that we can do within slides. The final piece from Insert that I want to make sure we look at together is diagram. So when I go to diagram, and I'll make a new slide for this. This was a favorite the last time that we did this session. So in here, we have these different types of diagrams from timelines or process, whatever it might be. I know a lot of folks use timelines in their classrooms, so I'm going to pick timeline. I can choose how many dates I want it to include from 4 to 6, what color theme I want it to be, and then I get several different options for what that layout will look like. So for me, I really like how this one looks. So I'm going to select it. And now I can go in and adjust the dates, change the title, and add short descriptions for every step along that timeline. Now keep in mind, as we said before, we have grids that we can do, hierarchies, processes, relationships, cycles, and we can, again, customize what those look like. One piece that I forgot to talk about when we were in slides, but I think is important, it's the same process in both docs or slides, so it's okay that we haven't covered it yet, is how we link things. So in here, I've got my text, I've highlighted my text, and if I wanted to make All About Slides a link that someone could click on, I can either find this chain icon, I can go to Insert and do link, or if I'm feeling fancy, I can do Control-K on my laptop. So I'm doing Control-K, comes up, and I can say where I want it to go. So I want this to go to google.com. It's going to find that resource. I can also link to individual slides if I want to, but I don't want to right now. And now when someone clicks on All About Slides, it comes up with the link and I can take them to the page I want them to go to. A cool thing about doing links in Google Slides, I can make this shape a link, I can make this image a link, and it's always the same process. So when I find this image about solar panels, I can click Insert Link, do a search for Segura Solar, which is a local solar company in Waynesboro. And now when someone clicks on that picture, it can take them where I want them to go. Okay. One last thing, I promise this is the last thing before we continue to our challenge. On this slide, I have, it's a blank slide and I'm pasting just one simple shape in here. Now notice that as I move it around, I get these lines that show me that it's in the center. So I have red lines telling me that it is both vertically and horizontally centered. If I wanted to have two of these, again, I get these red lines that let me know that they are in line with one another. And if I wanted to resize this one, so now it's small and I want it to be big, as I'm dragging it, you'll notice that I get blue lines both at the top and bottom that let me know that they are the same size. And it will highlight both objects that are in line with one another. Two very easy ways that we can help with design, both that centering option and then the size tool in there as well. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna bounce back to our slides, and on slide, oh, you guys are gonna love this. Slide 15, I have a bunch of templates that are out there for Google Slides that are made by an educator at a website called Slidesmania. So let's go ahead and click on that link. And I'll put the link in the chat as well. Maybe, sometimes it takes a little longer for me. John or Eric, can you put the link in the chat, please? So in here, these are all free slides templates that you can use that are made by an educator. So the first one was released yesterday, and it's a filing cabinet. So it's a way that every unit can have its own slides, and it's all linked for you already. And as we look through here, if you wanted to do a simple digital game board for your class, you can do that with that template. We have different challenges that you can do. My son is a Lego maniac right now. So in here that we have a math focused slide template using Lego blocks. That's pretty amazing. And there are 22 pages of different educational slides templates that you can use. So as you look through this, and we'll take about 2 minutes for you to look through, and maybe you'll find one that you like. Just think about how you might be able to apply these in your classroom. Again, spend about 2 minutes peeking through these, and then we'll come back together and just share out on what cool ones you're able to find. All right, so would anyone like to share out about one of these templates that you thought was particularly cool or could be helpful in your classroom?
I'm actually in the process. My name's Holly. I'm actually currently teaching summer school.
Okay.
And so our whole unit for summer school is based on space. And I actually found one of the templates that has like a space type theme. So I was like, oh, that would be pretty cool for my next session to actually use it and create my whole presentation for my summer classes for the next batch on that presentation. So thank you for sharing that. I never even knew that existed.
Yeah, and I think I used that same template on my Google Forms session, and I really liked it too. You're welcome, Holly. Anyone else want to share out?
I love that game board.
I know, right?
That one is amazing. That will save so much time. I'm constantly redoing a Candyland board, but I'm like, you know, and printing the cards and doing all that stuff. But I'm like, that, just having that, holy camole, that's going to be awesome.
Good. Yeah. And I always encourage people, all of my sessions, all of my resources are built using templates that other people have done. I want to be able to focus on the content, not on the creation and aesthetics. I can borrow other people who are really skilled at that part and just be able to really focus on my learning standards and objectives that I'm trying to get across to my kiddos. Maybe one more person who wants to share out.
I like them all. It's like the Pinterest of slides.
Yeah.
I think I could get lost in there.
Oh, me too, for sure. I'll need to pass this on to my wife who lives on Pinterest as well. Good idea. All right, so we're going to come back together, and I don't know if we have time to do these 2 challenges in our session right now, but I do want to put them out there for you. 2 other ideas, 2 other ways that you might be able to use slides. The first, the Padawan challenge, is a weekly check-in or beginning of the year introduction slide deck. When we click on this, this is something I do in a lot of my PD sessions or cohorts that I work with. And I've changed the title a little bit to Who Are You? Being able to pick, every student would come in and make a slide about who they are, add pictures, videos, whatever represents who they are, GIFs, Bitmoji, whatever. And that this could be a good way, especially if we're doing distance learning, to be able to get to know who our classmates are. So you could use Google Classroom like we talked about in the previous session, and be able to make not make a copy for each student, but have everybody edit, take a slide, drop their information in there. You can also use the same basic idea for a weekly check-in with how are you doing, what's one thing you learned, blah, 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 and they would be able to go in and contribute here. The other one has been kind of taking over social media in the past maybe 6 weeks or so, and that is making, what does your learning space look like? And using Google Slides, using different pictures and videos in here to really replicate that. So here's one. This is me. I'm reading a book about Vassal. If you click on this, it links out there. This is a link to my website, and you can put all your different learning resources in here, including here's a link to my Zoom or our Flipgrid for our class, Google Drive. How can they find the resources that they need? And you can bring in some of your own personality with it too. All right, so we are going to continue on at this point and do start to move into our wrap-up time. If you haven't been to any of these sessions before, I am going to do a little bit more talking, but then there is a time for a Q&A at the end. I want to thank you for joining. Again, it's a Monday morning, it's the summer for most of us, and you're here, you're dedicated to your kiddos, and I really admire that. If you want to continue to get my resources, you can go to bit.ly/Adam Seipel. That's my website. You can find all of our session materials on there. You can also go to, you're on Twitter, I'm Adam Seipel there too, and you can follow me, engage with me, and so forth. Huge thanks to John and Eric for being amazing moderators. I don't have to worry about a thing with them. They handle everything so well. Thank you guys again. Huge thanks to Vassal, Pam, and Liza that they insist that these sessions are made free for our educators, for Vassal members, and looking through our roster, I'm confident that this entire group is made up of that. That's really cool. Finally, please leave feedback. So if you go to bit.ly/VASCLBACK, you can go in here, give me some feedback. At the very last question on that first page, if you want a renewal certificate, you can click there, drop in your name and email address, and it will send you that certificate automated. Should be pretty quick. You'll be able to turn in. So at this point, I am going to be quiet and just let you guys either fill out the feedback form, or if you have questions, you can unmute and start to ask them. Once you've done your feedback, you're good to go. You don't need to stick around, but you are invited to if you'd like to. So thank you guys so much. And again, if you have questions, please stick around and ask them.
I had a question about Google Slides.
Okay.
If you're making a digital worksheet, like putting a worksheet in the background, I've done that this year, but my students had to make the text boxes themselves, which that made them kind of crazy. If I added the text box in myself and added a border and I shared it, pushed it out, would that text box appear on all of these, copies, and the children could type in it?
It should. One idea you might pursue is if you do the shape tool and put in some sort of text box that way, and it can stand out with a different color. You can add the border to it. Anytime they see that shape and that border, they know I need to respond in this space, and you might be able to leverage it that way.
But if I do that in my original document and push it out, they'll all have that in theirs.
That's correct. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Eric.
Could you talk about like what training modules are available for students to learn how to use Google?
Yeah, so there are a couple. My favorite place to go would be Applied Digital Skills. And in here, this is a free tool for from Google that's for learners of all ages. But if you come in here, there's the option for students. And they can build new skills. In here, middle and high school, they can create a budget in Google Sheets, create a resume. So this is using those different tools. All of these are video-based. The other thing that we can do, if you're a teacher and you're trying to pass this out to everybody in your class, then they have different bundles, including like an overview of all of the Google Suite. So this would be where I would start. I find it's very helpful. I think if we go to lessons, that's where you find everything. So they have bundles for teach from anywhere, learn from anywhere, study skills and learning strategies, online safety and digital well-being, and then for students, G Suite certification exam prep. And your kiddos could roll through this. And they have sections on Drive, Gmail, Hangout, Meet, Doc, Sheets, and so forth. Is that good, Eric?
I was the one that asked that question. Thank you very much. I feel like if we're going to do distant learning, a lot of our little ones struggle just to even like, how do I get on Google Drive, and don't know how to make a copy of something. So I think if there's some kind of standard for them learning and making sure every student is on the same page for kind of what they know. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know for a lot of us, and many of you came from the Google Classroom session right before this, I would use that and being able to use the make a copy for each student as much as I possibly could, because it would remove the having to make a copy and then do the sharing to my teacher. It just automates that entire process for you.
Are there any good YouTube videos for young children to actually learn all these processes?
Is there a particular process that you're looking for? Or just in general? You still there?
Yeah, sorry. I'm
Okay.
looking at possibly like a 3rd to 5th grader, something that's animated, that they're able to see it, but also it's very user-friendly.
Okay. So if you go back to slide 14, I have a link to the Teacher Center where they have different resources for each of the Google tools, or at least the main ones right now. It is brand new, so they might be adding more later. I find these to be very simple. So how do I create a presentation in Google Slides? And when they click on it, it's a 26-second video that walks them through how to do it. I know some of these are animated, others are doing a screen capture. That would be a good place to start. And then I did talk about the applied digital skills. Those are more for middle and high school, but it is still video based so that they could go back and replay it as many times as they need to and have that walkthrough of very high professionally produced videos. There are also millions of videos on YouTube. There's a very strong community of Google educators. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I just haven't looked for that particular application of 3.5 making a copy in slides or doing the work. Any other questions out there? All right, well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you all for joining me this morning. I hope that a lot of you are back tomorrow and that we can continue to explore these resources, these tools together. If not, it's been great spending this hour with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Adam,
Bye, guys.
I have one more question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
From what you just said. So the first one tomorrow, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name of it.
Choice boards and HyperDocs?
Yes, that's the one. If there are any cancellations or anything, is there still a chance that we could get in on that? Because someone said it was closed.
It's full at this point. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
guessing it probably will not be available.
Okay,
So we
so
are-
could you kick somebody out so that I can get in there?
So I will put that the recording of the session up on my website sometime tomorrow afternoon, so you can go and look there.
Perfect.
We'll also probably announce some July dates in the coming week or two, and I know that HyperDocs will be offered again during that time. Is that right,
Perfect.
Liza?
Awesome.
All right. Well, you can
Hi,
also
I had one question.
I'm sorry, one last thing,
Okay.
and then we'll get to it. I've already done the HyperDocs session a few times. So if you go to YouTube and do a search for Adam Seipel HyperDocs, there are probably 3 or 4 recordings of it there that you could go back to now if you didn't want to wait.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Who is up next?
Hi, my name's Sue. My question
Sue.
was, the second session that you're offering tomorrow, I didn't get a confirmation that I was in that one. Does that mean it was full and that was why I didn't get into it?
I
You
don't
should have
believe
gotten
it's
it.
full yet.
It's not full. You should have gotten an email. If you didn't, you can respond. Did you get the one last Friday? You didn't get anything.
Yeah, I got one for the first session tomorrow, but not for the second one.
Okay, so if you got one from me for the first session, please email me back and I
Okay.
will do the link for the next one. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. These have been awesome. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good. Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you, Adam.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
y'all. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you so much. So helpful.
Oh, good.